Welcome back to the Vegans Who Live podcast. I am your host, Brooke Sellers, otherwise known as Miss Meatless Muscle, joined by my co-host, John Thomas, the Bodybuilding Vegan. What's up, John?
What's up, dude? We got a special guest today. Might even be another bodybuilding vegan. What's up, Ben? How are you doing, brother?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Happy to
Excited to
be
have
here.
you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I'm honored to be here as a avid listener of the podcast.
yeah. You just competed, right?
Yeah. So I just did my third show this last weekend, and then I've got one coming up in a couple weeks on June 29th. And then I'm definitely have a few planned for the fall, but I might just kind of jump into shows throughout the summer and fall, depending on location, how I'm feeling about how the season is going so far, which we can get into at some point. And initially, this was not my plan at all. I was just planning to prepare for fall shows, competing with the Plant Built team at the Mr. America competition in October, and then hoping to qualify for the WNBF World Championships, which are in Boston this year in November. So those were kind of the two shows that I had initially planned to do, but I had felt ready to kind of jump into some spring shows. So I've been doing a couple, I guess you could say, as warm-ups, and then we'll see what shows I end up doing throughout the summer and fall. But yes, I did just have a show this past weekend.
Wow.
Yeah.
And to clarify, you've done 3 shows, but this is your first competitive season, right?
Correct. Yes.
Just diving right in, almost
That's a long
accidentally on
season.
stage.
Yeah. If I had a client who was trying to do this, I would tell them that they were crazy and that they shouldn't do that, and I would advise heavily against it. But I'm kind of somebody who likes to test things out on myself first, and then be able to, discuss the pros and cons with somebody that either comes to me, or like I have a friend who's maybe considering competing and they're like, hey, I want to do shows in the spring and the fall. What's your thoughts on that? And then this way I can kind of speak from firsthand experience. So I kind of do sometimes like to use myself as a guinea pig. I don't know if that's probably not a really vegan friendly term to say, but I like to use my second go-to was going to be saying a test monkey, but I don't think that's very vegan friendly either. So we need to have more vegan friendly expressions.
A test dummy, that would work.
There we
There you
go.
go.
I think that actually is the expression, and I just substituted that in. So what does that say about me? I'm not very vegan then.
I can say, like, on my own journey, it was very similar. There wasn't as much research or I guess there probably were coaches out there. I just didn't know them at the time, that were vegan. So a lot of self-experimentation. I think it makes you a better coach because you learn through making mistakes. And when you do stuff like competing all year long, you'll probably make some mistakes along the way. But you've done well. I've been impressed with what I've seen you do, especially as a first-time competitor. You have a coach yourself, correct?
I'm self-coached.
No, oh shit.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, shows what I know because
We
I
can talk about the pros and cons of that too, because that's an interesting conversation in itself.
Definitely. Yeah. I will say I will never. I was gonna say I will never diet down for just one show again. That was that was something, but kind of like I feel like that's kind of a newbie thing, like you get your eyes set on this one show and you don't really think about doing another one. At least you don't when you're first starting out, and that's something I definitely will never do again. Like if I'm gonna diet down and put in all the sacrifice, I'm gonna at least do 2 shows. So that's a really long season though. That's a really long time to stay super, super lean.
Yeah, it definitely requires some planning and some concessions because
Yeah.
obviously you can't really be at 100% for every single show, which is why oftentimes it doesn't really make sense. It's because I feel like mentally it is a hard thing to do a show knowing that you're not 100%, like you're not at your best. Warm-up shows I think can be really good when you know that you have a show coming, kind of like, oh, 2-3 weeks from now, let me kind of just get my feet wet, let me get up on stage, kind of dust off the cobwebs if it's been a little while. But I think when you have such a long time frame, then it's like, okay, at what point am I going to be 100%, 80%, 90%, that sort of thing. So yeah, in terms of like doing multiple shows versus one show, I think that doing one show your first time, from what I can see with people, I think oftentimes it is, like you said, kind of just like an exploratory thing. Like, let me just do this one show. And I think the hard part is that you don't really know what to expect going in. So by the time you get to that one show, sometimes you're kind of just done and you're like, I want to just experience the post show, like going out to eat with people and like getting that kind of like high of like, I just did this thing for X number of months. And I think mentally sometimes that's all people can handle is like after their first show, like they're done. They got to tap out. It obviously depends, like, you know, this person's competition history, how far they are into lifting, what their prep was like, because as you guys know, some preps are going to be like, hey, this didn't feel like as hard as the last one, or this prep was really hard. And I think usually the first one is kind of the most tough one. So I feel like sometimes maybe after that first show, you're just like, nah, I'm done. But then now that you've done that once before, Brooke, I totally get like, hey, I've done that. I've been preparing for like maybe years for this season. I'm not just gonna do, spend years to get 5 or 10 minutes up on stage. I want to make the most of it. So I can see that progression for sure.
Yeah.
I was self-coached for my first show and then went and ate a ton of food after, and I looked so much better because I just way over dieted myself. So then I ended up doing a second show. And then this most recent season, it's funny because I did take 2 years from my last show in 2021 until my show in 2023. And I only ended up doing one show. I got the feedback I needed. I did a prep with my coach. He got to figure me out a bit, and I need more size. So for me, it was like the outcome's not going to change unless I just find a show with a lot weaker of competition. And that wasn't really my goal. But I agree with you guys. Like, for my next prep or for anybody I work with, if we're going to go through a prep, it makes a lot of sense to do multiple shows. Unless you're Greta and you take first place at your first show and turn pro. And then in her case, it was like, okay, well, what do you want to do? And she wanted to just eat and grow. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm just rambling now. How long have you been lifting?
I started lifting in June of 2019. So it's been about 5 years.
Okay. Makes sense.
I love that. That's something that we always talk about too, is the misconception that people have about how long it takes to get to the stage. And I think a lot of people approach it like, I'm going to do a 20-week prep and I'm going to be ready in 20 weeks, but it doesn't necessarily work like that. Like you, I'd been training for 5-6 years before I ever stepped on stage. So I had a lot of muscle, and I get all these DMs all the time from people. Like I got a DM this week from someone who had just started lifting like 4 months ago, and she wanted to do a bodybuilding competition. I'm like, all right, you just started lifting. Probably not ready to do a bodybuilding competition. So yeah, that's another thing that I feel like people don't really understand the time that goes into it. Like when you see a really good physique, like that's the difference. When someone on stage and you say, wow, they look really good, they win, they take home all these medals, like typically that person has put a lot of time into building that physique. Just another one of the many things that I feel like people don't really understand what goes into competing in that stage look.
Yeah, I think the prep really starts before the prep. Like you guys know, if you get somebody who comes to you wanting to do a competition, most of the time you're like, unless they've been training for a long time, they have a really good head on their shoulders, they have a really good grasp on training, nutrition, everything. You're going to say, hey, can we do like an off season together for a year? Can we start like getting you to a point where I know your body and we're at this kind of good launching point for the prep? Obviously, 99% of the time you're not going to get your ideal scenario, your ideal circumstance, and that's just not going to happen. You have to make do with what you have and do your best with the situation. But I think, like you said, people have this misconception that, oh yeah, 12 weeks, 15 weeks to get to stage and I'm going to look like everyone else up there. And I think especially if you don't have a strong why for doing it, or perhaps the why that you've chosen is one that is going to set you up for a really difficult post-competition experience. Like if your why is, I want to use a bodybuilding competition as a way to like keep me on track because I'll have that dangling that carrot in front of me, you're going to set yourself up for a really hard time post-show when you no longer have that carrot in front of you. And it's like, now what? Not only are you in a compromised state physiologically, but you psychologically are probably not going to handle that period well. And that's where I see a lot of people quit bodybuilding and then say like, oh, this sport sucks. And it definitely like can suck. Like, honestly, I don't know that I really enjoy competitive bodybuilding that much, but similar to John, it's like I kind of view it as my form of advocacy in a way. And that's what I found the last conversation you guys had on the podcast. I was just listening to it yesterday. Really insightful and interesting, hearing John kind of talk through like his struggles with, is this the best way for me to be an advocate, and like where is my future in competitive bodybuilding, and just kind of like the push and pull between those two things. That's something that I think about a lot with myself, obviously on a different scale, but I think it just coming back and bringing it full circle, I think you need to really have a good head on your shoulders going into a prep, no matter what category you're competing in, no matter what your competitive aspirations are. It's going to be tough regardless. And so if you don't have that to kind of lean back on, it's going to be tough, especially as you get into the kind of final weeks.
Yeah.
Very wise words. I agree with everything you said. How old are you?
I'm 25.
Wow. I was not as well put together back then. No, you're on a really good start, dude. For how long you've been lifting, for how you carry yourself. I see you doing very well with wherever you choose to be, whether that's competitive bodybuilding or somewhere else. Should we stick to the script at all?
Let's just go ahead and get it out of the way.
Let's get it out of the way. Well, wins of the week. Ben, do you want to share would your show count as a win, or do you have something even bigger?
Yeah, I can talk about that. I think it was a win because the last two shows that I had done, I had felt okay about, but the first show was really fun, actually. I had a friend of mine who does videography in his spare time come down and kind of film the whole like show day experience and behind the scenes, and he's currently working on editing that, and I'm really looking forward to seeing all the footage and film. So I'll always have that as like a memory of my first show. So I was really happy that I did that. And then the second show was just the weekend afterwards, and it was kind of a whirlwind because I went from basically like thinking I was going to do just fall shows to at 8 or 9 weeks out deciding, okay, let me just hop into some spring shows here and get some experience going. And then getting in that competitive mindset and saying like getting a little bit too caught up in that and like pushing myself really hard to be more like even more competitive for the spring shows, and then digging myself into a really big hole with that and realizing like, oh man, can I swear on the podcast?
Absolutely.
Okay, I'm like, I really fucked myself like here, because I started my prep in like the high 180s, close to 190, which is about as high as I've pushed my body weight. I'm 5'7.5", and got down to like my prep low was like 149.4, I think. And then at that point, that was at like 1 week out from my first show. I was really like not in a good place. Like had all the prep symptoms, had the diet face, had the like talking really slowly to people and like mumbling and like tripping over my feet, like everything that you could expect. And so I kind of realized that I needed to get myself out of this position, because if I didn't get myself out of this position, I was not going to make it to the fall. So I kind of started doing what I had planned to be a reverse, but ended up being more of kind of a recovery diet, which I can talk a little bit about later. Anyways, mentally, I was not in a great spot after 2 or 3 weeks of like seeing my body weight come up and seeing my physique kind of like at first get better, but then you get to a point where after you get better and you have a little bit more food in your system, then you start putting back on body fat, and then you kind of just start like looking a little flat and watery and not that great. And so that's kind of the headspace that I was at after my first two shows. and not really enjoying the process as much, the day-to-day bodybuilding, which is what I love, which is why competing didn't feel like a big transition to me going into a prep, because my off season was just like structured, because that's just how I enjoy living. But that being said, this was the first show that I had a friend at, and that made a really big difference. So he ended up winning the heavyweight class. I ended up winning the lightweight class. So then we were in the overall together with the middleweight guy, and that was super fun. Just having a friend at the show, and then just like being in the overall together. The middleweight guy won, so we both lost, so that was fun. But it was less about the placing and more about just like being up there and getting like stage photos that we'll always have, the two of us up there together. And I think also I just tried to focus on goals that were more outside of placings, because it was never really my goal to be 100% for the spring show. So I was trying to get out of that mindset of like, okay, I'm trying to win, as opposed to let me just like do the best that I can with my posing and my presentation, and enjoying the whole show day experience, and not having it be this like memory of me being in my head the whole time. Because the show before that had kind of felt like that. And this show was actually like at the same venue, same promoter, same, basically the same show format. It just had pros in addition to amateurs. So this time around, I felt like my goals were just to enjoy the show, and to also, I felt like my posing wasn't that great in the previous time out. So I wanted to like improve my posing, and that included both like my routine and the comparison rounds, and I did all of that. So that was a win for me. It was just like enjoying the show itself a lot more, and I felt like I got a little bit of my confidence back from doing that show. So that would be my win for the week.
Love it.
I want to put a brief side note here, or I don't know. Yeah, sure. We'll call it a side note. So people might be, I was thinking about this, like people might be listening and being like, well, why would he do the shows in the spring if he's not going to be 100%? Like, why couldn't he just work harder? Why couldn't he be 100% in both the spring and the fall? Like, why would you do this if you're not at your best? So what I would say, and I think that you would agree, Ben, is to get on stage, and Brooke, to get on stage, you do have to make some sacrifices. And it's not even just like financial or effort or anything else. It's like physically, you will lose a little bit of muscle as you're getting super lean. It takes time to get stage lean, and you're not at your best. Like you are definitely at your weakest when you're getting on stage. So I would assume the game plan is to like get some experience in spring and not make 100% of those sacrifices now, with the intention of executing really, really well in the fall. That would be my guess. Also, just to state it for our viewers, you do compete in natural tested shows, correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah. So on the natural side, you're not battling just being low food, high cardio, still kicking your ass in the gym. You're also relying on your body with less food than it needs to produce hormones that you need to maintain your muscle mass. If you're an enhanced lifter, if you're like myself, it's not easy to prep either, but you can like almost buy yourself a little bit more time, be a little bit more reckless per se, at least in my experience. So I just wanted to clarify in case anybody was listening and like, well, why is he half-assing it? Like, it's not that. It's probably a calculated approach.
Yes. Yeah. So that you said everything correctly there, and basically my thought process as well wasn't something that was planned. So I initially was just planning to get ready for the fall shows, but I was ahead of schedule with how my physique was looking, and so there was kind of two forks in the road. One could be that I just slow down the amount of the rate of loss and how fast I was dieting for the fall shows and kind of just cruise into those, or I could kind of keep going at the rate that I was at, get to a point where I felt like, okay, maybe I'm not at 100%, but I'm still going to look the part on stage and be competitive enough to feel comfortable up there. And then depending on where I got from there, either maintain that and then kind of finish things off for the fall, or what ended up happening was I dieted a little bit too hard for the spring. And so now pulling myself out a little bit to give myself, again, kind of that runway to go back down for the fall shows. So that's what ended up happening. But that was kind of the plan, was just to like get some experience, so I don't get to the fall show fall shows, which are the ones that are really important to me, and be super nervous up there, don't know what to expect. So now I feel like, okay, having done 3, 4, 5 shows, by the time I get to the fall, I'll have felt like I've already done kind of a season in a way. And so then I'll be ready to pose my best, present my best. Physique wise, whether that actually will yield the best result kind of remains to be seen. But I think I'm okay with that trade-off. Again, just like you taking the first prep as a learning experience and recognizing that, yeah, I might make mistakes, especially being self-coached. Like some of these decisions that I'm making might not be ones that would have been made if I was with a coach. Like sometimes I make a decision for myself and I'm like, I know if I was coaching somebody, I wouldn't make the same decision, but I'm doing it because I value the learning experience that I'm going to get from that more than I do a placing. So that's kind of where my head's at with everything.
I think it's also kind of like a hamster wheel too. Like, I think it can always be true that like I may not be at my best. Like, that's always going to be true. You know, like no matter what division you're in, if you're a bikini girl, you can always have more glutes. You may always have more, you know what? It's like it can always be true. And I think some people like there's different goals for different shows. Like sometimes you go in, and then it's like, especially with your first show, sometimes you just don't even know what to expect. Like that was me. Like I was like, I would love to win, but I have no idea what the hell to expect. Like who knows what's going to happen. And so then like after that first show, you kind of start approaching each show a little bit differently. It's like, well, I want to win. I want to get an overall. But then sometimes it's like, I just want feedback. Like I just want to see like where I'm at. So I know for the next show where I'll be. So it just changes. So yeah, it's not always about like winning and placing maybe first in your class or whatever it is, but it's just about like the journey, which I think is a really good perspective to have, because I think a lot of people go into it like, I'm going to win my first show. I'm going to get the overall at my first show. I'm going to go pro, you know, whatever. And most of the time, unless you're just a genetic freak, that's not the case, you know? So you, to approach it like, this is a journey. I have this show and then multiple shows, and then each one I'm going to get better. I think that's a really good strategy. And then it gives you a lot of flexibility too. You get more feedback, and like the more feedback you get, the better. So, and I think that's where people run into trouble too, is like they do shows and they don't implement the feedback. And that's really what's important. That's how you progress.
Yeah, definitely. And I think one thing that I've also realized is that competing is a great way to make friends and connections as well. Like bodybuilding can be a very lonely endeavor and a lonely sport, if we're going to call it that. And I think it is, just in a different way than people typically think of it. But having a easy way to network and meet people is a great aspect of the sport. And even just looking at this past show, like the reason that I enjoyed it so much was because I had a friend there and I made more friends there. And now these are people who presumably, if you are competing locally, which most of the shows that I've done have been like pretty close nearby to me, it's like, hey, let's meet up and lift sometime, or let's do this or do that. You grab someone's Instagram or you connect with them on socials. So I think that there's a lot of reasons why somebody might choose to compete, and whatever that reason is, you might surprise yourself with the other things that you end up getting out of it. So yeah, but yeah, getting the feedback and just getting the experience, and focusing, like you said, on like the journey rather than the end destination or the goal. Like I know we say it all the time, it's cheesy, but it's true. So yeah, I love that.
Love it.
Cool.
What about your guys? What are your wins of the week?
John, you want to go?
I'll go.
I have a short one, so
this one is like a symbolic win alongside an actual physical win, I guess. So actually tomorrow is the year anniversary of my dad passing. So I had been wanting to get a tattoo, kind of as a reminder and also as an accountability piece for myself. My dad used to always tell me to stop and smell the roses. And I don't know. When I was younger, I enjoyed a lot of the work that I did. I think I still enjoy the work that I do. It is just a lot, and I don't often slow down or take like personal time up until like the last month, maybe. Um, Brooke's been urging me probably for years now to do that, and been a great example. And then being with Allie more and watching how she does it for herself, like in person, just takes an hour to go journal or meditate or drink her coffee and like read on the porch. And like seeing that modeled for me has made me want to do it more. So I've started blocking off days that I intend on not doing any excessive work. I'll still get back to clients. I'll probably still do some Instagram stuff, but like no additional podcasts, no additional interviews, no filming content for sponsors or driving around or taking 5 phone calls. Like no more 14-hour days if I put no events on that day. So I've been trying to learn how to stop and smell the roses. And so I actually have a vegan tattoo artist here in Tampa. And if you guys get to watch, you'll be able to see it. I posted on my Instagram. I have this purple rose to signify stopping and smelling the roses. I did not intend for it to be this big. I thought it was going to be like a 2-hour tattoo. It ended up being almost 5. So it was a lot more pain than I had anticipated. But it was good. I really like the art. It's done by Paul Todd. He's a client of mine out here in Tampa, a vegan tattoo artist. So that's really cool. He's actually thinking about maybe doing a show himself. So cool to connect with him. And now I have this reminder. I don't want to be a hypocrite. I need to actually like take care of myself and occasionally stop and smell the roses. I also went with purple because I do not have a purple tattoo yet. Well, now I do. And that was my dad's favorite color. So for me, it's like, all right, I'm committing to taking care of myself. And I just realized too, like today, I was texting Allie and I was like, the analogy is like, I'm like a car that's like broken. I can either go 0 miles an hour or like 100. It's one or the other. I keep trying to drive like 50 and it's just not working. I'm constantly climbing back up to 100 or like stopping and crashing. So I'm like, maybe that's just my style. Maybe I just work. I guess normal people do this. They work 4 or 5 days and then take a day or 2 off. It's like what a weekend is. So I guess I'm trying to be more normal. I don't know. But yeah, it's like for me, it's like I don't know how to not work hard. It's almost like a deload. Like how hard is it to go to the gym and like not take a set to failure? For me, it's hard. It's like if I'm gonna be there, I want to fucking do it. So better to just not go if I can't really do it. So I don't know. That's just me. But yeah, so that's my win. Stop and smell the roses a bit more. And I'm being a little bit more present. Like I had an opportunity with a friend yesterday to stay at an event an extra 15 minutes and just connect with them. And I was like, oh, I got so many things to do. I'm already behind on like all these things. I was like, you know what? Like all those things that I need to do could probably wait another 15, 30 minutes. I don't know when I'll get the chance to like connect with this person and just sit down and talk again. So maybe I'll take the in-person event, the in-person connection that's not guaranteed in the future. And all the other things waiting on me, they'll be there waiting for me to get to them anyways. So that's where I'm at. That's my win. Thank you for listening.
That's
nice.
big. I remember you saying just like a month or 2 ago how that was something that you were trying to do and you literally like couldn't like make yourself do it, like take time off or have a day where you didn't have anything planned on your schedule. And I know that recently like you went to visit family and you were able to take some time off to hang out with them and spend time there. So that's definitely something that you should be proud of and give yourself props for, because like you said, if when you are somebody who has this mindset of I want to constantly be pushing myself forward in some way or improving in some aspect, usually all aspects, like I think bodybuilders I've seen tend to gravitate towards more that kind of personality style, is like, hey, I have this pursuit that is so 24/7 that I'm always thinking about it, and you kind of get wrapped up in that and then it starts to leak out into other aspects, which it can be good and it can be bad, and I think you kind of just have to like learn how to harness it like you're saying and like work around it. So how can I, like a deload is a way to manage fatigue in training. Like how can I manage that same like life fatigue? Maybe that is taking a day off every now and then or scheduling it in intentionally. If you find that like, I don't know, like with deloads, I think sometimes it's like, oh, I can always push it back. Like I could push back another week. I could, I can train for another day. I don't need to take this rest day. But then you find if you don't actually schedule it in, sometimes it catches up to you. And I think maybe it's the same thing with life as well. It's like, if you don't schedule it in, it catches up and it kind of creeps up before you really realize it. And you can always say like, oh, I could work more. I could work another hour today, or I could work another, 14-hour day, like you're saying. So props to you. And I think that that's definitely something that you should be proud of, because it's not easy to do, especially when you find yourself in that mindset or that mentality, or that's kind of how you've just always been.
Yeah, thank you, brother. I think that's a good point. Like, deloads for my clients, I usually just kind of let life happen. They go on a vacation, they get sick, whatever, that's their deload. But like, I've learned I need to do that for me, because like there would be times where I'm like, okay, I'm ready to take a break. Like, I'll admit I need a day off, and then I look at my calendar and like at least 2 to 3 weeks are like all practically booked out. And like, so now I have like this coming weekend, I've said like I'm not doing anything. And it's been so hard because I've had like 5 different things pop up where like that would be a great day to fit that in. And I've just had to be like, no, I'm sorry, I'm busy that day. And really, I'm not busy. I'm busy doing nothing, but for all intents and purposes, I'm busy.
It's not nothing. Like you can't give to other people if you don't give back to yourself. And that's hard to internalize sometimes. Somebody said to me recently, who they're a coach themselves. They work with a lot of prep athletes, but a mixture as well, Gen Pop. 90 and 95 or 99% of cases, this is what they said to me, and they've been coaching for a while. Bodybuilding is not an emergency. There's nothing in bodybuilding is an emergency. Like it can wait until the next day or the next morning. Like this is some guy who used to be doing his check-ins at 2 or 3 in the morning because he had to get them all done before he would like go to sleep, just to feel like clients were taken care of, because that's who he was. He was going to get it done because he said he was going to get it done. But in reality, like it's so true. Like it's not like we're dealing with medical emergencies most of the time. And yeah, like it is hard when you get that message from a client who's struggling and you want to just like be there in that moment to support them and to reach out. I think we can all relate to that as coaches. But in reality, it's like if you do that every single time, you're going to put yourself into a hole really quickly with the amount of mental space that you find yourself having. And it's hard not to take on the burden, kind of, I guess, from when clients are struggling, because you feel that we're all empathetic people, and we want to be there to support them. But it's like, yeah, if you feel like you are constantly on call 24/7, it gets to you. So I think it's a lot easier said than done to maintain that boundary. But I really think it is true. Like nothing in bodybuilding is an emergency, or bodybuilding. When I say that, it's like fitness most of the time.
If it's an emergency, you should be calling 911, not me. The only like, yeah, no, I pretty much agree. I'm like thinking of like a rare instance, maybe like a prep athlete, and not something that I usually venture into, but like, let's say they're using diuretics or something else. That's where like maybe they would reach out to you in emergency. But how many athletes do you have competing every weekend? Like you could make space for one person. Well, I'll say if you're a coach and you're not just starting out and have like 3 clients, if you have double digit or more roster, like turn your notifications off. Just check it a few times a day. But I used to like, I'd let the notifications come through and I'll be like lifting, and then I'll get something that's not really an emergency, but now it's in my brain. And the way my brain works is it's there until I take care of it. So it's like, I might as well just take care of it. So, yeah, I agree, brother.
Sorry. I was going to say that's a really good tip regarding the notifications. That's since I started doing that, people get annoyed at me because I miss their calls and like their texts more often sometimes, which is, I guess, a downside. But what it really does is like you only check things when you're meaning to check them, and you don't get like wrapped into things at random times of the day, and your brain doesn't get scattered in 7 different places at once 24/7. So that's a really good tip with the notifications.
That's exactly what I do. I mean, because I've been doing this like almost 5 years now, so I've kind of figured out like a system that works for me. And I remember I once had a business coach who like sat me down and she looked at my calendar and there was just shit everywhere. Like it's like clients everywhere, like social media content creation everywhere, like sales calls everywhere. Like just shit was everywhere. So she's like, okay, so I think you need to get organized. And she really helped me kind of like divvy up my week. so that so like basically what I do now is like Mondays and Tuesdays are for my clients. Like I don't typically do a lot of calls. I do have my call with Sean on Tuesdays, but you know, that's a little bit different. And then the rest of the week I use for like content creation, for our podcast, for whatever else needs to be done, sales calls, stuff like that. And that has helped me so much. And it's like you said, like I have my Trainerize notifications turned off. That's my app I use for my clients. So that, you know, because I also have people all around the world. So like when somebody's hitting me up in Thailand, like I'm like, you know, I'm asleep. So when I'm tuned in and ready, like, okay, it's 10 o'clock, time to check on my clients and answer messages. I can just go through and do it then. That's helped me so much, so much. And like making time, I really like, I would not be able to move at the pace I do like Monday through Saturday if I didn't take my Sunday off and like didn't do anything. Like don't do any content creation. And like there's a time, especially for me, like I started all this just because it was fun. Like it was just fun. I just liked sharing like my vegan lifestyle and like lifting and doing all this stuff. And then there was a point where it became overwhelming and it became too much and it was less fun. Like I could find the fun, but it didn't feel like fun. And then that's when it's like, okay, that's an issue. So what do I need to do to make it not overwhelming? And I feel like making that time for yourself where you can just like reset and rest is really important, and just connect to other things around you and other people around you, because it is important. It's like I would not be able to. The other thing is like we wear multiple hats. So like until you have a team of people, it may feel overwhelming. So like you're also your coach, but you're also a marketing, you know, your marketing department. You're also your HR department. You're also your customer service. You know what I'm saying? You're content creator. You're all of those things. So it can be a lot as an entrepreneur, and it can also be stressful because at the same time, like you eat what you hunt as an entrepreneur. Like nobody's sending us people. I mean, maybe, but not a lot to sustain our business without us doing any sort of marketing. So it does become a lot of pressure because like it's all on you to make sure that you have like clients and that you're able to sustain your income. But I feel like the longevity of that, you do have to have rest. And that's the only reason like I am able to do all of the things I'm able to do, is because I do like I have mandatory, non-negotiable times where I'm like, nope, this is time for me and my dog, you know, me and my family, like whatever it is. So yeah, I'm really happy after all this time that you're doing it.
Yeah. It's funny. I had a boss that ran a small business, and I had a complaint. He's like, "Would you like to talk to HR?" And I was like, "We know who HR is. It's you." And he's like, "Yep." So, I don't know. That was funny to me. Brooke, what is your win of the week?
Okay, I've got a super simple, short, like kind of shallow, not deep at all win this week. But I think it's funny and cool. So you guys know Dave Bautista, the wrestler, the actor?
Yes.
Okay, so he commented on my post of Chief.
Let's go.
Dude.
I died. I was like, what? This can't be real. And I went and I looked at it and he had the check mark. And I'm like, holy shit, this is awesome. I wish you could share my content, but that's okay.
Take your shot. Ask him.
I know, right? So I guess he's a pit bull dad. I went and looked through his page and he had like all these pit bulls, and he like commented on my post and he was like, oh my gosh, yours acts just like mine or something like that. And I was like, oh my God, how cool. It's just crazy. And like I was talking about last week, once again, I was like, okay, dog content. Okay, fine. I'll do it. Whatever. You know, no expectations whatsoever. And like, shit, I just looked at this video this morning. It's like over 1,000 saves, 400, like 35,000 views, something like that. I mean, it's bananas. So somehow it reached Dave Bautista, and I just thought that was so freaking cool.
I'm going to have to like rent a dog just for a little bit of content creation. I'll give it right back. Dang, dude, that's nuts. And I guess that's part of like stick with it, y'all. Like this is probably your best post of all time, I'm guessing, like ever. Yeah.
Probably so. I mean, like maybe like a long time ago, I had some like in the millions, like years ago, but it probably in the past like year or two, this is my best post. Yeah, my dog just doing dog stuff. That's it.
I'm getting a dog.
Save a dog. Adopt, don't shop.
Yeah. No shopping for me. There's enough that need homes out there. Cool beans. We're 40 minutes in. It's just this is how we do it. Ben, it's very,
I love it. I love it. We keep it conversational, keep it casual.
Yeah.
Are we ready for question game?
Let's do that.
Okay, let's see what we got today. Oh, okay. What is one thing you were grounded for as a kid? Ooh. Probably a lot, but I guess pick your favorite.
I'm trying to think of like the worst thing I ever did. I've done some stupid stuff as a kid. I didn't get caught for a lot of it. I don't know if this counts, but I still have a younger brother. We were just small at the time, and I didn't have anybody else to play with because we lived out in like kind of like in the country, like in the woods. So when he got bored and didn't want to play with me anymore, I would just annoy him until he would either play with me or fight with me. So one day he was tired, didn't want to play anymore, and so I kept poking the bear until he freaked out. And he threw a TV remote at my face, like hard. Like it probably would have broken some teeth. So I did the smart thing and I ducked, and then immediately heard glass shattering behind me. And the remote's like 30 feet out in the yard. And I'm like, oh, we're dead. We are dead. Like my mom, I love her so much, but she was like the more dominant parent when we were younger. And she could lose her temper a little bit and scare me. So we just stopped fighting and we just sat on the porch outside and waited for somebody to get home because we knew we were screwed. Like this was going to be it. My dad got home first, which was actually awesome. He waited for my mom to get home. I don't even know if this is right or wrong, but he pretended to take us to another room and inflict some physical punishment, but he just pretended so that my mom wouldn't feel the need to add on any at the time. And then my dad's like, well, you're going to pay for it. So you guys don't get allowance until it's taken care of. But my brother would always spend all his money. He didn't think long term. I saved all my money. So I ended up paying for the window out of pocket. My brother still hasn't paid for it. It was $136. And yeah, I remember.
I was going to say, I love that you remember.
I remember the little yellow slip that they wrote the estimate on because like there's all my money. I'm like, I don't know, like 9, and like I've been saving all my birthday money for years. But yeah, I guess not technically grounded. Maybe we weren't allowed to watch TV or something after that because that's not how you're supposed to use the remote. But yeah, that was that was like a regular occurrence just without the window breaking though. That was like almost every day. I was like I am now, just high energy, wanting something to do. But yeah, okay, that's mine.
That's a good one. That's a good one. I'm trying to think. I would say, I mean, probably the worst was I was in high school and my mom found my little weed stash in my book bag. And I will never forget like coming home and she was just bawling her eyes out on the couch. And it was just like, she really just thought I was a drug addict. Like I needed to go to rehab and like, she like full on was like, I can't believe you're an addict and all this stuff. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm not an addict, but I know there's no way I can convince you of that. So what's going to happen here? And I got like my phone taken away. I got my card taken away. Couldn't go to anybody's house. And I was like grounded forever for that. But yeah, it was just funny.
Is your mom someone who's like the very innocent kind who like had never touched any of that stuff, or was it just like her seeing her daughter like with a stash of weed was just too much for her to take in?
Funny story. That's a good question. So yes, At that time, yes, she was very innocent. Since I've corrupted her, and she loves a good edible. Oh, you guys want to hear a good story? So she took an edible the night before my show, and she was, mind you, supposed to be taking me to my hair and makeup at like 4 a.m. And so she took like these gummy rings, you know, and you're only supposed to eat like half of it or like a quarter of it. And she's not even used to this. Like I've smoked almost my whole life since I was a teenager. Like she hasn't been like that, but she is into the gummies and the edibles and stuff now. And she took a whole one, and she literally thought I was gonna have to take her to the hospital. And I'm like, Mom, I'm sorry, you're gonna have to hang in there today because I gotta be on stage.
Time.
I literally had to get myself up at 5. I took myself to my hair and my makeup because like I was like, oh my gosh, I'm doing this, my mom can do this and this and that. Nope, totally none. So I was like totally on my own. But yeah, it was interesting to say the least. Oh my gosh, it was insane. She was like drunk.
Wow.
Yeah, she's cool
funny.
now though.
That's a good story.
How did that end up getting resolved? You got grounded and then she just assumed that was it, or was there any further intervention?
You know, no, I think they like would threaten to drug test me and stuff, like get like one of those kits at Walgreens, you know, like, oh, we're gonna drug test you, but it never happened, and I was just a little bit more sneaky. You just get sneakier. That's all that happens. Is like, oh, okay, well, I'm not gonna keep it in my book bag, so now I'm gonna keep it at my friend's house, you know. So yeah.
When you have to be sneakier, it makes it more fun because it makes it more dangerous or something in a way. I remember I never really like touched weed or alcohol till probably like senior year of high school. And first time I ever had alcohol was like after like summer after senior year. First time I ever had weed was probably halfway through senior year. But I just remember we would go to this park near my house and we would come back and my dad would be up like doing work somewhere. And so me and my friends would like basically try to sneak past him like down to our basement. And we knew that like he, like back in college, like he was a total stoner. Like we found his like old bong in our like basement that had his like college insignia on it and everything. And it was like this really old like bong. And so we knew that he probably suspected us, but it always made it more fun, like having to kind of like sneak past him or like interact with him when we came back from the little escapades. There was this expression, I forget what it was, but it was like something about how an element of like not danger per se, but like the fact that it was you were doing something kind of sneaky, like it just enhances the experience. It makes it more fun when you're younger. When you're older, you're like, I don't want to deal with this shit anymore. I don't care if I get caught. But when you're younger, it makes it more fun.
I know that was like what time me and my boyfriend we got super stoned and we were like gonna go see this movie Meg. The Megalodon movie.
Yes.
I was like, oh my God, we gotta go see this stoned. And then like we're in the parking lot and he's like freaking out and he's like, but what if they know we're stoned? And I'm like, who cares?
Classic. Classic.
Not illegal to be
so
stoned.
No.
That's funny because like all of us have instances where we found out our parents have also done this. Well, I guess Brooke, had your mom never done it herself prior?
No, but she did tell me she would take like Quaaludes and stuff in the 80s or the 80s.
Okay, well there you go. So like once I always thought drugs are horrible. Like drugs are bad. Like they scare you when you're a kid. Drugs are so bad. And then I found out my parents did them as well, and I'm like, oh, this isn't that bad. Like I've just been lied to my whole life, included by my parents. So, but I don't know. If I had my own kids, I don't know if I would tell them like, yeah, go do it. Like I don't know where you draw the line there. It's
yeah, I kind of get it though, because it's like, we all knew those people in high school, like they took it too far. Like they, you know what I'm saying? Like there's there's the people who smoke weed, but then there's the people who are like doing all sorts of other shit too. And then it's like, okay, well, you you do have issues, but yeah, so that would be a tough line to call. Cause like, which crowd are they going to fall into? Like, are they just going to fall into the hippies, like the cool, like hippie pot smokers, like, or are they going to follow into the, like the real addicts, Who
And then
knows?
some of us turn into bodybuilders. Weird.
Oh
Where does
boy.
that play in?
Yeah.
Did you tell? Wait, Ben, you did not tell your grounding story.
No. Question before I move on to that. I often get kind of sidetracked, and I hope that's okay. I wanted to ask you guys, kind of on that subject, does it ever feel weird to you, like going back to like high school, like seeing like high school or friends from like way long ago and like talking to them about like bodybuilding, or like they're like, oh, you're a bodybuilder now, and you have that conversation with them? Like, what is that like for you guys?
I started at 15, so everybody knows me for that.
Okay, so they
Like,
knew
yeah,
you were a bodybuilder, like when you knew people back then, or you were getting started, a gym guy maybe.
gym guy. Yeah, it wasn't competitive. I was like, I wrestled at like 130 pounds at 14 years old, and by the time I hit 16, I was already up to like 190, and kind of a little bit fluffy, but still like I worked out a lot. Didn't know what I was doing for the most part, but by the end of high school, I was like 200 pounds and pretty much around there, give or take, for a while. So like people knew I worked out. Like it's not surprising to them that I still work out, I guess. Yeah.
Got it.
It's weird for me, because I was not really in good shape that most of my childhood. In middle school, my nickname at my school was the fat girl. That's what people called me. And
That
in high
is so
school,
mean.
yeah, it was awful. Yeah, I know. I laugh about it now, but like it was traumatizing. It was terrible. People were so mean to me, and I really wasn't even that overweight. I just compared to like other girls who hadn't hit puberty and they were like little twigs, like I was bigger than them. So yeah, it is weird, I guess. But everybody kind of knows what I'm doing and sees what I'm doing for the most part. I think for me, I have a lot of people from high school who end up like reaching out to me and they're being like, oh, well, I'd really like some help. I really want to lose 20 pounds. Do you have any advice for me? I need to get with you. I need you to get me some macros and stuff like that. And I'm like, well, it is my full-time job. So if you do want to pay me, that would be
Here's a link.
awesome. Yeah, here's a link. So I do run into that. It's like people are like, oh, remember me? Like I knew you. Like, can you hook me up with some macros? And I'm just like, there's
It's
a
like
fee for that.
it's like having a friend in high school who like ended up being like a plumber, electrician. Like you wouldn't just call them up and say, hey, can you do my plumbing or my electricity for me for free? Like, no. Like they might give you a discount or something to be nice, but it's like that would never be an expectation.
Exactly. Yeah.
Actually, funny you mentioned that. I'll shout out my friend. I don't think he would care. I don't think he even listens, but his name's Rico, and he was somebody I always looked up to back when I wrestled. I was like 14. He was a year older. So it was like literally like 16 years ago, 17 years ago. And he just texted me and said, hey, I'd love to get some feedback from you on like starting a nutrition and training plan. And it's like, yeah. So like I think they'll keep up with you, and then they'll feel comfortable because they knew you back before you were what you are now. So yeah, interesting you asked that when that literally happened yesterday to me. Yeah, so we'll see if he wants to work together.
That would be cool. My story, I don't really, I can think of a couple things. My parents were never really like, I can't think of a time that I was formally like grounded. Not because I didn't do like stupid crap like I did sometimes. Like sometimes I would get, I think the biggest thing for me when I was younger is that I had a really hard time managing my emotions. Like I would get really frustrated and angry a lot, like very easily, especially like if something I I always had kind of like a rigid way of thinking. Like if I had a certain expectation about how something was going to go, like, oh, we said we were going to this place at this time and it didn't end up happening, I would get upset or angry or frustrated. And so I can recall many times during middle school or high school storming upstairs and slamming the door to my room and being angry and screaming into my pillow. But there aren't too many times that I can recall me doing something like outwardly in the world and then my parents getting like mad at me and grounding me, partly because I was a nerdy kid who played Magic the Gathering and like League of Legends on my laptop and didn't really do much outside of the house. At least like until I got to college and started coming out of my shell a little bit more and feeling more confident. I think that was part of it as well. Like when I was doing these other things, I was kind of in my own world, whether that was playing video games or playing cards with my friends. I had a very like close-knit friend group, neighborhood friend group. And so that's just kind of formed my middle school and high school experience. And then as I started to find my interests a little bit more, I should say my interests changed, because those were my interests. And then it shifted more towards athletics and playing sports and like ultimate frisbee. That was something that I played for 6 or 7 years. And so that kind of became my friend group. And then I feel like my friend group, there's some people who have stayed constant and who will always be lifelong friends, but a lot of times it has kind of shifted with like my interests and my passions and my hobbies and what I'm really into at the time. So like there's one time kind of similar to what you were saying, John, that I can think of with I have a younger brother. He's 2 years younger than me. And so there's a lot of stories that I could tell. There actually was one. I think there was a time that I threw a TV remote at him, or like hit him with a TV remote or something like that. But I remember when we were quite a bit younger, I think I was maybe 10 and he was 8 or something like that. Maybe, yeah, something like that. I was doing, I don't know, we were monkeying around in the basement and I took him and I like grabbed him. We were playing this game where I was like spinning him around and I would grab him and I'd spin him and then I'd let him go and he'd fly into the couch or the beanbag or whatever. And so I was like, come on, let's play this whatever game that we had named or made up. And he's like, no, I don't really want to. I'm like, oh, come on. So I bug him. Finally, he says yes. We do it one time. And of course, it's fun the first time. And he's like, oh, yeah, let's do it again. And the second time I let go, he flies, he hits his head into a radiator, which could have been really, really bad. Like he had to go to the ER and get staples, and it was bloody and there was blood on the carpet. And so my mom was like in the basement, like screaming at me, being like, what have you done? Essentially. I was like, I don't know. We were just playing and now he's got a dent in his head the size of it. I don't know. But yeah, that could have been so much worse, thinking about it now. It wasn't like a full-on radiator. It was one of those portable ones, but hard enough to do some damage. So he ended up needing to get staples. And then there were some other similar stories, but that was probably the worst thing that I did when I was a kid.
I bet you didn't even need to be yelled at to feel horrible about
I
that
did
one.
not. I did not, but I was regardless. One of the few times my mom, I saw her get like truly angry or upset. And yeah, I didn't blame her when she saw her other son like on the carpet with a bloody head.
I don't need children. Thank you for reaffirming.
Seriously. Oh my gosh.
Well, all right. We've covered the script. I feel like we've done a lot as well. I don't think we scripted any other questions, did we, Brooke?
We sure didn't, but I do have a question actually, because I saw that Ben, when you did compete, I think I saw, like, correct me if I'm wrong, maybe I read this wrong or misinterpreted it wrong, but you chose not to compete in novice or true novice.
That is correct. Where was that? I think I might have mentioned in a post. I might have mentioned it in a podcast that I did with the OCB president. Me and Danny and Giacomo hopped on a podcast with him, and we're talking about that. But yeah, I chose to do just the open and not the novice or first timers. Or is there another one? I think it was just novice and first timers. For I've done one OCB show and I've done 2 INBF shows, which are the amateur branch of the WNBF. But yes, that's correct.
Interesting. So I'm just curious your thought process behind that.
Real quick, for people that don't know, true novice means you've never done a show, and novice means you've never won your class. So if you hadn't done that before, why would you not?
So I'll give a couple reasons for that. The first would be the fact that crossovers cost money, and I didn't want to pay the extra fees to do the crossovers. So that would be one. That's a small one though. The crossover fees are not anything massive. Another one was that I felt like I had put a good amount of time into practicing my posing, and I think it does usually make sense to do the additional classes because you can only do them so many times and they're a good way to get more stage time and stage experience. However, I knew that I wasn't only going to be doing one show. Like I'd have lots of different shows to get that kind of stage time and stage experience. So I think if you're only doing one show and it's your first show, probably would make sense. And then another reason was that I felt like I did not want to, if it was going to be a smaller show, which a lot of these natural shows, unfortunately, they do tend to be a little bit smaller. So you might only get a couple people in each class, and then the comparison round takes like 5 minutes and you're on to the next class. Because the men's bodybuilders, they'll just run them through and then they'll do like the awards or the overalls like right afterwards. It's a straight through format. So there's no like morning show, evening show. I knew that there was a potential that I would like be on for one class and then I'd have to come out again in 5 or 10 minutes and do another class. And then by the time that they got to the open, I would have already done 2 different like categories or rounds of posing and I'd be a little bit gassed or tired. And I didn't really want to do that going into the opens. But the really, honestly, if I'm being completely transparent, the main reason is that I wanted to step out there the first time and have people say like find out that it was my first time competing and say, I can't believe that's that guy's first time on stage. Like I wanted to look so polished with my posing and my presentation and like stage confidence that people could not tell that that was my first time up on stage. And I'm a very competitive person. I've always been like that. I was the person, my parents tell a story that, you ever play Candyland growing up? I'm not sure if you ever played that.
Oh yeah.
I would cheat at Candyland when I was like 4 years old. So, when I would play Monopoly with the babysitter, I would try to like sneak the money, out from, behind her to get it. Yeah, I didn't play fair and I'm not going to say those are good things, but I've always been, definitely competitive, don't like losing. So for me, it was kind of like hey, I want like earning a pro card has never been an expectation of mine, but it's always been like, why wouldn't I put myself in a position to potentially do that? And I want to compete with the most competitive, the best of the best from the get-go. Like when I said to myself before I started my first like competitive bodybuilding season, obviously it's not an expectation that I'm going to be able to compete with them, but I still want to be on stage, like seeing how I stack up against the people who are vying for that pro card. And so, yeah, if it happens, great. If not, that's fine too. Like I know that I need more time to grow and to mature. Like I've been lifting for less than 5 years. The first 2 years of that, I spent mostly just spinning my wheels. And so I've only really had like 2 years, 2.5 years of like dedicated time in a surplus growing. So I'm totally okay with the fact that it might not be my time yet, but you know, why wouldn't I put myself in a position to potentially do that and see where I stack up? So that was kind of my reasoning behind just jumping into the open immediately.
Makes perfect sense. I also thought I was the only person that cheated at Candyland. I was like 3 and I played my grandma and I would rig the deck every time. And I was like, she just doesn't know how good I am. But she probably saw right through it and just realized I was a sneaky little kid. Looking back on it now, I thought I was slick. You make a lot of sense. So one, I can't believe we have that in common as well. That's just obscure. And how did that get brought up?
Yeah.
But from a competing side, I think it's funny because I think you and I would probably both tell our clients, yeah, go do the novice show, go get all the experience. But for me and for you, like, I don't care about beating somebody that didn't really know what they were doing. And a lot of times in the novice class, you get people up there that didn't practice their posing, didn't get tanned, most likely did not get peeled or stage lean. Like they still got 20 weeks to go and they're on stage. I just didn't want to be around that. Like I wanted to be around whoever's going to maybe win. I imagine it's the same for you. So that competitive nature.
Yep. 100%. Everything you said.
Yeah. Very cool. Yeah, that was, I was just surprised because not many people do that, but I do really respect that. And I can totally understand why you do it. And it's kind of the same thing where people will strategize and kind of pick like a very obscure, weird show that there's not going to be many people who show up to, versus like picking a show that is actually going to be very competitive. And you know, of course it comes down to what your goals are. Like if you just want to have fun, like there's people who just want to do a show just for fun. great. Pick any show. Who cares? You know, I mean, but if you
There's
really,
sorry,
what's
I was
that?
just saying there's so many other easy ways to have fun versus being a bodybuilder.
I know, right? I know. With and no health risk, no ridiculous
Yeah.
financial expenses. Yeah. But yeah, I feel like if you're actually gonna want to be that's kind of how it is here in Georgia. We maybe have one or two really good shows where they're actually competitive, and you know, and that's saying a lot. There's still probably maybe 5 people in your class, you know, if you're lucky. And we have shows all year, but really it's like it comes down to 2, and you know, otherwise you're probably in a class with like 2 to 3 people. So, you know, it's like if you really want to be competitive, and like for me, like my goal, I would love to at some point get a pro card, you know. So for me to figure out like how I actually stack up against some really competitive girls, it would kind of be stupid for me to do a show that not many people showed up to, and like I could just sweep a class of like 3 people. Like, okay, yeah, I walk away with a medal, but like what does that mean? You know, it's like, well, if I want to go to nationals, I'm not going to be competing against these people. I'm going to be competing against like really, really good people, and it's going to come down to everybody looks good. So who's posing is a little bit better, who has a little bit better presentation, stuff like John said, like who fucked up their tan. Like it comes down to those little tiny details when everybody looks really good. So yeah, I think for your long-term goal, I think that's a smart move. And you know, walking away with some hardware, it can be irrelevant depending on who the competition was and what the show was.
A lot of participation trophies are handed out at bodybuilding shows at the
Yes.
regional level. Yeah. Why vegan?
Why vegan? So when the pandemic hit, I was a junior in college. I was a couple days out from leaving for a school trip. So I studied exercise science in school, and I was planning to go to Iceland to spend a week in their like hot springs at this like therapeutic integrative like spa there, basically with all my classmates like studying what they did for it was mostly I think older adults, those with maybe more kind of like chronic health conditions who would go there to this like therapeutic thermal spring spa in the mountains in Iceland. So obviously that sounds nice thing and sound like saying it out loud and thinking about it now. It was going to be mostly educational, but also obviously experiential. And it got canceled. So we were supposed to fly out on Saturday and it got canceled on the Friday, like right before, which is a good thing because I would have ended up stuck in Iceland for like, I don't know, however many months if we had ended up going. But I found myself at home with a lot of time on my hands. And a couple months prior, I had watched the Game Changers documentary. And I remember watching it and thinking to myself, well, this is interesting. And it's cool that these athletes are doing that. And it might be something I consider someday. So at this point, I was, I think 6 months into lifting. So to be fair, since the second I like got bit by the lifting bug, which didn't take me too long. I guess I'll back up to there. Just something about me, I always like have to give the full story behind everything or else I feel like it's incomplete and it bugs me. So I was halfway through college. It was in between sophomore and junior year. And I picked up this like random book about strength training, diet, nutrition. It's by this guy, Mike Matthews. He runs Legion Athletics. I'm not sure if you guys...
Yes, love that book. Was
Yes.
it Bigger, Stronger,
That
Leaner,
one, yeah,
something like
yes,
love
yes.
it.
So it was lying around the house at home, and so I picked it up and I was like, "Oh, Dad, did you buy this book?" And he's like, "Yeah, I haven't gotten a chance to read it yet." So I was like, "Well," at that point, I thought I was going to be a physical therapist, so I'd been doing like observation hours for that and like doing all my prereqs and planning to do that. Didn't end up working out like that, obviously, but I thought it would be a useful thing to know a little bit more about strength training since the education in college that I was doing, we touched on that in some of our classes, but it wasn't obviously like a huge focus. It was more clinical and physiological and stuff like that. So I picked it up and I read through the whole book, and I read like when it was talking about like weighing your food on a scale and following a training program, I was like, oh, this is too hardcore. Like, I don't want to do any of this. I'm not going to do it. So I put the book down, and then a week later, I like reread it and came back to it. And I'm like, no, I'm going to do it. I'm going to try it. So I have a very extreme personality. So I went from not knowing anything about nutrition or following any sort of plan to, okay, I'm creating my own meal plan for myself. And that is the only thing I'm eating for 3 months. And I'm not eating anything off plan at all. I probably did, but I was like very like militant about sticking to that. Even though I drastically undershot how much I was eating. So I probably, I think I lost like, would have been 25 pounds in like 3 months or something like that.
Wow.
Which was quite a bit. So I went from like 170 to like low 140s. And I was probably close to, even with the limited amount of muscle mass I had at that point, I was probably close to like single digit body fat. Like I had like 8-pack abs, but obviously I was like a rail, like I had no muscle on me. So I didn't get the desired outcome that I was looking for. And I ended up with a lot of more like psychological issues around food that ended up sorting themselves out eventually. But I was about 6 months into lifting when I watched the Game Changers documentary, and I was constantly reading articles and videos. Like I said, like since I got bit by the lifting bug, like most of my free time I'm spent either like listening to a podcast or watching a video or reading something and just trying to get better. And whether that be eventually like getting into more of the psychology and coaching, but obviously like reading stuff about lifting, nutrition, whatever it was. I really like to nerd out about that stuff and educate myself. So I watched the Game Changers documentary, and I was like, yeah, this is cool, but I'm not convinced. And maybe I'll try going vegan after I've been lifting for 10 or 15 years and I've built my base of muscle. You know, it's funny because now it's like that's used as a way to discredit people who go vegan or plant-based like later in their lifting careers by saying like, oh, you built your base and then you switched over so you wouldn't see any meaningful difference. And that's kind of the mindset that I was in. So obviously I was coming at it more from like a health perspective at that point. But then when this trip got canceled, I started going down the rabbit hole of like, okay, what the health pops up in my Netflix recommendation. So I watched that. Then I watched Cowspiracy. Then I find the, I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with the Gary Yourofsky, like famous speech on YouTube. He's like this animal rights activist who would go around to these different colleges and places giving lectures. And so there's this famous speech of his that's on YouTube that has like a couple million views. I think it's called The Best Speech You'll Ever Hear, or something like that. So then that ended up getting recommended to me. I watched that. This was all within the span of like 2 or 3 days. And then I watched that, and there was a point during that where he was going to be putting up some like footage of factory farming stuff in there. And so he's like, you know, if you need to leave a room or whatever, that's fine, but just like, or close your eyes, but like ask yourself, why is it that you can't watch this? Like, why is it that you, that this is something that's so disturbing to you? And obviously like now being vegan, obviously I don't prefer to look at that kind of stuff. And I get that there are vegans who like never want to see that sort of stuff, and that's totally understandable. But that did kind of resonate with me. I was like, okay, why am I like, why can't I like look at that? Like what is so off-putting about that? And so I reflected on that, and just listening to how he kind of very, very like logically laid out his arguments in that thing, even though it was like 10 or 15 years old, the speech, a lot of the points still kind of held the same. Right after watching that speech, I remember like my family was in the kitchen, they were like cooking dinner. I was like watching the video on the couch, and I was like, all right, guys, I'm vegan now. Like immediately after watching that speech, I was like, all right, I'm vegan now. I've been convinced. I don't need any more convincing. So I was like, I'll figure it out when it comes to nutrition. I'll figure it out when it comes to navigating this new life. But like I knew at that point, like I was never going back. It was firmly solidified in my mind. So I've had people since then say like, oh, like how long are you going to do this for? Like, are you going to keep it up? Or you know, what's your cheat day or something like that, like as if I would go back to eating animal products. And so that was when I made that switch officially for ethical reasons, even though I kind of was interested a little bit at first by kind of the more health aspects, and then environment obviously is a nice plus, but was never really a huge factor into my decision. But obviously like environment, like environmental impact, animals, health, it's all kind of interconnected anyways, isn't it? So I also remember that night going over to my friend's house, and I was the biggest meat eater out of my entire friend group. Like I remember one of my best friends when he was in high school, me and my other best friend, where there's like 4 of us. So me and my 3 friends who live really close, kind of in my neighborhood. who played Magic the Gathering with me, who, you know, played sports with me. We were really tight, the four of us. Still are to this day. Those are kind of like some of my forever friends. We like playing board games. We like watching Lord of the Rings and Star Wars and Harry Potter and all that sort of stuff. So one of us, his name's Max, he decided that he was going to stop eating meat for a period of time in high school. And I remember me and my other friend Alex gave him so much shit, and we were like, Max, like, we'll take you out, buddy. We'll buy you a nice steak. Like, come on. We were just like giving him crap for no reason, just because I don't know, we're high school kids and we thought it was funny. And I remember going over to my friend's house, and like we would have this crew of whatever, 8, 9, 10 of us. Actually, a lot of us still live locally, and our friend group there's 11 of us, and a lot of the times still, like, after work, we'll go over to somebody's house and we'll all kind of hang out. So we've maintained that, which is something that's really special and nice and that I appreciate. To make a long story short, I went over to the house and I was like, guys, I'm vegan now. And they're like, yeah, bullshit. Like, ha ha ha, funny. And I was like, no, seriously, like, this is the reason why I watched these documentaries, like XYZ decision. And so I just went vegan just like that. And my brother is now vegan as well. And my sister has been vegetarian since she was like 10 or 11. And my parents, I would say, are now like 95% plant-based. But none of my friends outside of that are vegan, just me and my brother. So it's nice that I have my brother. Like, we've always had very similar interests, whether it came down to, like, we would go to these trading card tournaments together. We would play video games together. We would cook together. We would have cooking competitions. I'm not sure if you guys have ever seen that show Chopped, where they give you like the 4 ingredients. We would like have these competitions, chop competitions against each other. And then like we'd get our friends or like family to judge it. So none of my friends like ended up going vegan or really becoming interested in it at all, other than my brother. But yeah, it was basically just like, once I made that connection, that was it for me. And the rest is history, I suppose.
Dude, I think we're twins because my brother went vegan, my sister went vegetarian, and neither of my mom went vegetarian, but not fully vegan, and my dad never went fully anything. So similar.
Yeah, we keep finding these similarities.
I know, man. We've had a few others that are just like, that have happened off air. That's just like, wow, we do the same exact thing, or we think the same thing. I want to touch on. Oh, you threw out a lot there, but I want to touch on one part that really like hit me and has been hitting me more recently. So that speech that you watched, and you mentioned, he said, like, I'm going to show factory footage, and if this bothers you, why does it bother you? If you need to leave, you can. I still know tons of people that are not vegan or vegetarian, and that footage does bother them. They won't watch it. They refuse to watch it because it makes them so upset. But they don't change what they're doing. I think there's like levels to this though. So like you and I and Brooke, once we saw that, or came to it from health reasons. Me, it was the animals first. I would tell myself I don't want to watch this footage anymore. And I thought about why. And I think the reason I don't want to watch it anymore is because I still feel culpable. I still feel responsible. If I'm not being a bigger advocate or an animal activist, then I'm just saying it's okay for this to happen, even though I'm not directly contributing to it. So I think it's the vegans out there that this footage still bothers you. That should light a fire under your ass to get out there and do something. So I was going to ask, you already kind of answered it. You're within your own family and being that influence in your friend group. And I think your influence probably extends a lot further than you realize, because back when you were 17 and your buddy went vegetarian or vegan, I bet you had your own internal thoughts of what a vegan looked like, or who a vegan was. Now for your friend group and for your family, when they hear the word vegan, they're going to think of you. You get to be that representative. I was going to ask, is there anything else you've been doing to promote or be an activist in the vegan community at this time? I wasn't when I was your age, so I'm not trying to put you on blast. I'm just genuinely curious.
Yeah. This is something that I've been thinking about as I've kind of heard you reflecting on your own journey. And like, I think when you do decide to adopt a vegan lifestyle, you kind of quickly realize that, man, this should be just like the standard. Like, this should just be how things are. And I think I go through periods of time where I feel like, man, like, screw everyone else. I'm doing my part. Like, why can't other people get on the same page? And I'm sick of having to like constantly be the one who feels like an outcast and I'm left out. And it's like, everyone should just be this way. But ultimately, it's not helpful to think like that. And so most of the time where I come back to is like, what is the best way for me to reach and connect with people using the skill set that I have, and what feels like it is productive and moving the needle forward. Like when I first went vegan and I was that angry vegan, like preaching at everyone, I just ended up feeling frustrated, and it didn't feel like I was being productive or moving the needle forward, even if it felt like that was what I had to do, because I had all these emotions and all this anger and upsetting things. And I think that is why, for myself at least, it is sometimes important to like rewatch something like Dominion, because it reminds me like why, like it puts me in that kind of emotional state again when I feel like I've maybe haven't forgotten why I'm doing this, but I think just sometimes, like you said, it lights a fire under your ass in a way, where, and I think that's something that actually has really gotten me through this bodybuilding prep when things have been really hard, is like, I realized that I don't actually like competing. Like, I don't enjoy getting, like, some people that I talk to who are competitors, they're like, oh, I love the suffering. I love how hard, like, pushing through hard things. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, like, I like going to the gym and like training hard. Like, that feels really good to me. But I don't like being like shredded, looking like a freaking alien and like not having energy to do stuff. And I can't be as flexible with like, you know, having a meal with my family or going out with friends to get tacos or whatever it is. Like, I don't necessarily, like, there are times where I'm like, I feel good about the fact that I pushed myself through something challenging. But to be honest, I don't really love, like, I actually don't even like the way that I look when I'm like super, super lean. It just looks freaky to me. Like, I prefer myself when I'm at like, I don't know, if I had to think about an ideal, maybe like 12, 13% body fat, something like that. Maybe even closer to like 15. Like, I like being a little bit like kind of like bulked up in my shirts. Like, now I realized I like wearing oversized clothing with everything. And so I prefer being a little bit higher body fat. So I don't actually even like the shredded look. I don't prefer how it makes me feel. I don't like the aesthetic of it. So for me, competing is a way to open the door and open the conversation to people who are competitors, to people who maybe have doubts about what you can do as a plant-based athlete, as somebody who doesn't eat any animal products. And so I've had lots of conversations with fellow competitors, like backstage or people online, people at the gym. It's one of the reasons that whenever I go to a gym, usually, I'm not going to say whenever, but like, I have kind of an outfit that I wear. Like, I have these like freaking like blue and black atomic stripe pants, and I have this oversized like shirt that says vegan power on it, and it's got like a gorilla on it, like lifting a barbell or something. And for like the past 2 years, I've basically forced myself to wear that to the gym every single day, because it opens up the door to have that conversation with people, even though I really don't like drawing attention to myself. When I go to the gym, I'm there to work out for me. Like, I don't even really like training with other people. I like training by myself, being in my own little world, got my music on, I'm listening to my R&B, like, I'm hitting my sets, I'm like taking shit to failure, I'm like killing myself in the gym. Like, that feels good to me. The dieting for bodybuilding, I don't like that. So for me, I feel like right now with where I'm at, I feel like I enjoy the fact that I can be more inspiring than like shaming people when it comes to veganism. Like, I feel like that's the best way for me to be an activist. And I think other people are really good about, like, you look at someone like Earthling Ed. He's really good at having conversations with people and breaking stuff down logically. And I get frustrated by that sort of activism. Like, when I try to have these more kind of like intellectual debates with people about like, is veganism like ethically or like morally necessary, I just end up myself fumbling over my words, and like, I get really frustrated because I know it makes sense to me, but sometimes I'm not able to remember all the clear talking points, and then I just get like in my head about it, and I just end up feeling frustrated. Whereas if I get somebody who comes to me because they see that I've been able to accomplish something through bodybuilding, they're just genuinely asking about like, hey, how can I incorporate more plant-based foods into my diet? How can I do this or that? And that's where I can be really helpful, because that's where I know my stuff. And I understand that even if these people maybe aren't getting into it for ethical reasons at first, maybe that's something that they'll come to over time as they kind of delve more into that, whether they come to it for health-based reasons or whatever they're trying to do. Maybe they really maybe they do connect with the ethical part, but they're really overwhelmed by making that change at once, and they just want to start small. Like anything that you can do to get somebody to eat less animal products is having an impact. And so I've kind of had to rewire the way that I think from, okay, I need to convert somebody fully or else I failed and I haven't done my job, to let me just be like a source of inspiration for people. Let them come to me. I'll try to meet them with where they're at and help them wherever they're at in that journey. And so competitive bodybuilding for me, like 1 or 2 weeks out from my first show, I kind of said, like, or maybe it was in a couple weeks out, more weeks out from that. That was kind of when I had that epiphany that I don't actually really enjoy competitive bodybuilding that much. But I was like, and I was almost like, do I want to do this again? Like, do I want to prep again? And then I came to this realization, like, no, you have to prep again, because this is, this maybe not next year or the year afterwards. It can be, I'll take a couple years off. But this is kind of like what brings me purpose and drive, is thinking about why am I doing all of this? And yeah, I enjoy it. Like, I think I would get burnt out way faster if I didn't enjoy what I was doing on a daily basis, like the routine, the consistency, the structure. I definitely have some neurodivergent tendencies and traits that lean me towards enjoying that. Like, I like eating the same stuff every day. I like having my meal timings. I like having my routine, my structure. It keeps me grounded. I like going to the gym. I like the training. But I think what really keeps me focused and driven towards I want to be the best. Like, my goal is to be one of the best natural bodybuilders in my weight class at the WNBF World Championships. I want to place top 5 in the lightweights. That's my lifetime goal, and I'm really passionate about getting there, because even if I don't get there, I'm still using it as motivation for veganism and my form of advocacy. So that is, I don't even remember what your initial question was. I just went on a really long rant, but it was something related to what I was talking about.
Basically, how are you an activist? And you answered
bodybuilding,
quite well. It's been easy to interview you because it seems like you enjoy sharing. So I can relate, dude. I'll wear the shirt you're wearing on it if it's a low social energy day. I'm still gonna wear vegan. I mean, it's branded on the side of my head now, but I'll wear black if I'm not fully but if I'm I could take some comments today, I could take some questions, then I'll wear the rainbow one. And it's I don't have the same exact outfit, but so many companies are let us send you a shirt. It's super nice material or what. I'm don't say vegan on it. I'm not, I only got so much shirt space, shirt real estate on me. So it's got to be vegan. That's same as you. That's my activism. And I think you could be an activist in many areas, even on Reddit or in other places, but not everyone can do what the three of us are doing. Not everyone can do that. So I feel like that's our gift and curse at the same time, is that we get to do this. I mean, shoot, if we were in wheelchairs or probably blind, I mean, I've seen some blind bodybuilders, but I don't think I could do this if I was blind. Yeah, so we get to do it. Anyways, I've talked a lot. Ben, you've talked a lot. Brooke, anything from you?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like for anybody listening, if you don't like bodybuilding, there's plenty of ways to be an activist, and so and you don't know if you don't try either. So I do feel like, if there's something that interests you, go for it. Always try it. But yeah, I mean, I'm in the same boat. I'm not gonna pressure people. I'm not going to make people feel bad about their choices. That's not really my approach, because that never worked for me when I was eating meat for 21 years. And I mean, I feel like the best way to influence people is to just show them, just show them. So people can argue with us all day. I mean, like, you know, we'd get all the if people had no idea what we looked like, if they couldn't go to a profile and creep on us and see what we're doing and our accomplishments, you know, we would deal with all the same arguments. But it is the fact that, like, well, you look good, you're healthy, you're excelling in your sport. You can't come up with all the same just kind of crap like, oh, well, you know, you don't get enough protein. Oh, well, you're B12 deficient. You're this, that, and the other. But like there's so many other things too. Like Bruno, who we're gonna have on our podcast, is a skater, and that's really cool as well. And I mean, like endurance athletes, like we've talked about before, I do feel like endurance athletes have a little bit of an advantage over us because it is the dieting down, especially for aesthetics, that like we get hung up on. But I think that's with any diet, because like when you're an endurance athlete, you just eat for fuel. So like it really doesn't matter like what carbohydrates you're introducing, like how much, how, you know. But like when you're trying to diet down for aesthetics, that's where you get a little bit more limited. So like if you're like someone who wants to run a marathon, if you're like one of those people, Ironman races, like all of those kind of like really cool like triathlete events, I think that is a great avenue for vegans to start moving in towards, because I feel like that's an arena that vegans especially have an advantage in, because we do have a more carbohydrate heavy diet. So like even our protein sources have carbohydrates in them. So I feel like people would really, really excel there. It's a whole nother mental battle, like we talked on our last podcast about just like running 100 miles is just a whole different ball game. But there's so many different things, and like that's kind of like an entry level kind of thing too. So like you don't have to be, you know, some sort of collegiate athlete like you would if you wanted to join the NBA or the NBA, you know. You could just go run a marathon. You could just start practicing for a cycling event or a triathlon, whatever it is, an Ironman. So there's lots of different ways. So, you know, you're not just limited to stuff that you see on social media. I think that you know, there's a lot of different avenues for people who want to advocate like we are in a positive way, that's just like showing people here's what you can do. Like we're not limited. We're still chasing our dreams and we're still going after our goals despite what everybody has told us.
Yeah. To add on to that, I think there's a big misconception with being able to be vegan in the bodybuilding community, because it's not really been done at the highest level. No, there's no Mr. Olympia, natural or otherwise, that's been vegan. But in the triathlon community and the ultra marathon, vegans are killing it.
Yeah.
Because people, I think people are ahead of the times there. Like they realized, actually, I was talking with I might say around Erin Domains, I believe. She's been vegan for 25 years, and she became vegan because she was a triathlete, I believe, or a marathon runner. And her coach was like, try a vegan diet, see if you perform better. And she did. So she's stuck with that for a long time. Like she's performed better because of it. So I think what I wanted to say also, sorry, is even if you're not an athlete, you still get to be whatever field you're in. Everybody knows you is that vegan blank, whether you're a vegan doctor, a vegan photographer, vegan chef, like whatever you are, that's what people are going to think of vegan as. So you get that opportunity to be an advocate for it. So put it in your bios, put it on your hashtags, put it on your shirts, like put it out there, and you'll have no clue how many other people you'll find and connect with and inspire. So I think
that's a really good point. Yeah. There's so many ways, because it's like all of these questions around veganism, like just you saying that, like I think about a chef, like they have plenty of motivation there too, because we're getting different questions. Like, where do you get your protein? Like, you know, how do you have enough energy, or like, you know, all these other things, but they're getting questions like, well, does it taste good? Like, well, how do I bake? Like, what do I substitute eggs with? Like, you know, they're getting all those questions. So it's a whole nother like avenue that they could take it down. And I was also even thinking about like a travel vlogger. Like if you like to travel and you're vegan, that's a great avenue as well, because people always think, well, how am I going to be able to go travel to Italy or Greece or whatever and be vegan? Like, are there even any vegan options? Like, are they going to even understand? So yeah, there's so many different avenues. Like, whatever your interests are, there is a way to advocate for veganism in a positive way.
Yeah. Like, let's say you like shoes, like you like to collect shoes. You could do like shoe reviews, vegan shoe reviews, shouting out vegan shoe companies. Like, I think like you guys are saying, the more places that we can get vegans in, so it's just like becomes more of a normal thing to be vegan. Also, the more like circles that vegans are in, the more that you're kind of like spreading your impact within that circle, and people become more familiar with what that means and whatever the specific applications are for that niche. I think that is kind of funny, actually. Like, I think about, because we're so used to like where do you get your protein is such a common question that we'll get, that it's like become a joke. And I wonder about like, are there communities of vegan chefs who are like, oh, like this person's asking about like baking for like the 73rd time, or like some other field where they get like some stereotypical question about oh, like how do you make like vegan leather, and they're like, oh god, like this again, like I've answered this like a million times. It's kind of funny to think about. I've never thought about that.
Yeah. Well, I got a couple more quick questions, and then I think that's it for me. What's your next steps as far as competing? When is your next show?
Right. So, as I mentioned, my prep low was like 149.4, something like that, and that was a week out from my first show. I think to be 100% at the conditioning that I need to be at, if I want to be really competitive, I probably need to get down to like 145 or so. So I wasn't too far off from being 100%. Maybe a couple pounds actually lower than that, because you always have more to go than you think. But I basically have spent the last like 6 weeks or so doing kind of like a little, I guess I'll briefly kind of outline the way that I see the difference between like a reverse diet versus a recovery diet. So like a reverse diet might be you're slowly increasing your calories out of a deficit. You're either still in a slight deficit, or you're going to maintenance and then maybe slowly working up your calories and trying to hold your body weight. Whereas a recovery diet is like you're intentionally trying to gain weight for the purpose of restoring some of your physiological functions that have been altered during a prep. So for me, I was initially planning to get to a point where I could just hold a lean body weight and kind of reverse and then maintain that through the summer and then continue to diet down for fall shows. But I think because I pushed myself a little bit too far for the spring, it's looked more like a recovery diet, like gaining some weight back in order to kind of reset some of that stuff. Like my sleep went to shit, my energy levels went to shit, like the heavy feet, the feeling lethargic all the time, all those kind of things. Like honestly, the hunger and food focus thing for me, like food focus, I think has been there, but hunger hasn't been like a massive thing. It's been more so some of those like physical side effects. And so for me, over the past 6 weeks or so, I've gained back about 5% of my body weight, which is kind of like the lower end of that recommendation for gaining weight back after a competition. It kind of depends how lean you got, what category you're competing in, how hard your prep was on your body. So it's all very individual and context dependent. But all that to say that I've gone from that to about hovering between like 156, 157. So next week I'll start dieting back down again for the fall shows. My next show is June 29th. So that'll kind of, I guess, it's like, what is even a warm-up show? What is my season? Is it like, it's just kind of one long drawn out thing. And I'm just doing shows because I'm close to being competitive that I might as well just do them if they're, I don't really, I save in so many other areas. I'm a chronic saver like you, John. Like I try to always pick like the, how can I save money on food, on clothing, on expenses? Every single place in my life, how can I save? So if I'm only going to get, lean once every 4 or 5 years or however long I'm going to take between competitions, I'm going to do all the shows that I want to do, and I'm going to get the photos, and I'm going to do whatever. Cause like, this is like my main hobby and passion. So why wouldn't I like choose to do that? So yep. Next show is June 29th. And then after that, there's a string of shows I could do. I was just looking at more this morning. I initially planned to kind of hold off till late September, or I should say late August, early September. But like, there's a couple shows in July close to me. There's a couple in August. So we'll see what I end up doing. But the main shows that I really would like to focus on being my 100% for are Mr. America and the WNBF World. So Mr. America is October 12th and 13th in Atlantic City, New Jersey. I'll be competing with the Plant Built team with a bunch of other vegan athletes, which I'm very honored to be a part of. And then the World Championships for the WNBF are right around Thanksgiving. So I'm going to kind of slowly cruise my way into those and not try to rush to get there, because if I get there too soon, I will not make it. So that is my plan for the rest of the year. I could have 5 more shows. Maybe I could be less than that. I could have 3 more shows. I could have 12 more shows. So we will see. We'll see.
Whew.
Keep it up, brother. It's fun to watch you. It's fun to interact and get to cheer you on along the way. You definitely are making strides in the sport for vegans. So I sincerely appreciate you. If people want to follow you a little bit closer, I know you have a YouTube channel and social media. You want to drop any links or places that people could find you?
Sure. Yeah. In terms of social media, I'm most active on Instagram. So you can just follow me at Ben A. Mitchell. So that's just my Ben, my middle initial A, and then my last name Mitchell, Mitchell. I am a coach at Vegan Proteins under Danny and Giacomo, who you guys have both had on the podcast. On social media, I primarily just post stuff of my own personal journey. So it's not a ton of like educational reels around XYZ things. Like I do try to provide education, but most of the time it's clips of me training. It's what I'm eating. It's kind of documenting my own personal bodybuilding journey. And then obviously I will post stuff related to vegan proteins and stuff that we're doing there and content. My YouTube channel, the links to that are found on my Instagram bio somewhere, either in my highlights. If you go to my highlights, it'll say like 2024 prep. And so my YouTube channel currently is also just a way of documenting my own bodybuilding journey in more of a longer form style. So I just post like one video a week right there right now. And it's basically I just recap like how the last week went. I'll go over like how I track different data metrics, whether that be my training performance, my body weight. I'll go over like physique updates, training clips in the gym, basically it's basically outlining like how I coach myself and my own internal thought process. And so if that's something that's interesting to you, then my YouTube channel is probably the best place for that. I think it's at Ben A. Mitchell as well on YouTube. And yeah, that's probably the best place to reach out, to connect, to find me.
Yeah, I can highly recommend his page for anybody that's looking to get a little bit more of an in-depth look at like training splits. You put out really good content there. So thank you, brother.
Thank you.
Brooke, did you have anything else?
No, just thanks for coming on. It's been awesome to watch your journey, and you are an incredible advocate for vegans in an athletic space. So yeah, just keep doing what you're doing. I love your content, and thanks for coming on and giving us your time.
No, thank you guys. It's been really fun chatting with you. I knew it would be kind of like just casual friends catching up, even though I've never met either of you guys, but hopefully that'll change. I'd love to come out to one of the events that y'all are putting on. John, I definitely want to try to make it, if possible, for the expo that you're doing later this year, or the festival that you were just talking about on the last podcast. So hopefully, I'm crossing my fingers there's not like a show that weekend that I'm doing, and I can come down for that. But was very excited to hear you doing that, and I know that you guys do will be at some certain like festivals or events together, so hopefully I'll get to meet both of you in person not too far in the future.
Yeah. June 15th, Atlanta, Georgia is going to be the Vegan Street Fair. Okay, Vegan Street Fair. And then September 9th in Tampa is the Fit Fest. So Giacomo and I believe the Plant Strength team will be here. So let me know, dude. We can talk off air if you need a place to stay or anything like that. Yeah. So last little bit of housekeeping. veganswholiftacademy.com. If you guys want to go through Brooke and I's second class here, we're going to be starting that up in the next couple weeks. So we still got a couple spots left if you're interested for that. If you guys want to find all the prior episodes, leave us a comment or a voice note. Vegans Who Lift podcast.com. Did I say academy earlier or podcast? I don't remember.
You said academy.
Okay, so I did say it right. All right. And then if you want to leave a comment or a voice note, veganswholivepodcast.com. I'm all over the place. This is why Brooke does the outros. Anyways, it's been a pleasure, Ben. We appreciate you, brother. And we will see you guys next time. Have the absolute best day ever.